And when we finished, they said, well, why don't you become our regular asset recovery team?
Oh, wow, great. That's
and
fantastic.
we said, we never thought of it that way. We always thought of it, find the assets, then find the owners. And that, the light bulb went off, and that's when we started working the other direction, working for entities to find their assets, because the large entities are always going to have assets slipping through the cracks. When you have a company that's doing billions of dollars of revenue a year, for them to misplace a few $100,000 a year, they're not even. That's less than you finding a penny in your couch cushion. It's not even a rounding error for them. I mean, they appreciate getting the extra money, but nobody's losing sleep over it either.
Right.
So on the other hand, for the person at the company who is telling his bosses that he found a few extra $100,000, it looks good in his resume.
Good.
Obviously, a smaller company like ours, it certainly helps our bottom line. So.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And it's so interesting how, you've been doing this for 17 years and innovating and changing and expanding. And so how many, are you global, are you not global, but are you covering the United States or only in the areas where you have licensed investigators?
Yeah, so we cover the entire United States. First of all, we have two offices. We have one here and one in Israel. And we're actually our company is starting a joint venture with another company. That company is called Travelers Energy, and that's specifically dealing with the oil and gas for large companies, like I mentioned, the one company in Tulsa. So that's actually going to be based in Memphis.
Oh, cool.
To answer your question, the assets, it doesn't matter where the assets are. We actually very rarely we don't meet too many of our clients face to face. So we work nationally. We actually work internationally. We work with someone in Australia who has assets where we'll help her find owners who are in America.
I see. I see.
So we'll work with other finders. On any given day, I might talk to people in half a dozen different countries and 20 different states. In fact, I was telling my wife the other day that I looked at my email sent list at the end of the workday, and I realized I'd sent out probably 30 emails that day, which is actually on the lower end for me, and not one of them had gone to someone in Michigan. Every one of them had gone at least out of state, if not out of country. Nowadays with the internet and phones and everything like that, it's much easier. I look back to, I read a book a few years ago written by a guy in the 80s who was in our line of business, and he talked about having a collection of phone books from all over the country that he had by his desk, and if he needed to look up someone, he had to find the phone book for that area and look up that name, and if he was on the road, he'd have to find the payphone. And I think it was in my lifetime. I was already probably a teenager at the time, but how ancient that must sound to people.
Right. Oh my, yeah. When you think about PIs back in the early days, it was really, really tough. And trying to go to the towns and talk to people and hear the stories and hope everybody's still alive.
And we still have to do that. I mean, we still have to be, as I mentioned, going to the courthouse, but also we do a lot of on-the-ground research. We sometimes go to cemeteries because we want to see, for example, who's buried next to whom. Because that might help us flesh out the family tree. So
I'd have to pass on that one. I don't want to go to a cemetery.
It's quiet there. No one's bothering. It's even quieter than the library.
Actually, there's probably some pretty amazing ones down south. I mean, because I do read a lot of Southern literature, and it's like you hear about some of the interesting things about cemeteries down there. So this is an off comment, but wow, it's so interesting about your business. Where do you see your next evolution coming? What's evolving out there for your business in terms of maybe the technology you use, or your approach, maybe your brand? Is there an evolution that you see or that you're working through right now?
So the two areas that I've been really focusing on, and I've been very fortunate, but going back to hiring, to have somebody a VP who really runs a lot of the day-to-day. And hi, Liz, you're awesome. And I was able to hand off a lot of the day-to-day stuff so I could focus more on the business development. And there kind of are two areas of growth that we're looking at. One is Travelers Energy, which I mentioned, which is finding mineral interest, well, not just mineral interest, but also other real property interests like easements, rights of way, stuff like that. We just signed the contract with a large cell phone provider to find their assets, and they have cell phone towers around the country.
And they need to be able to place them.
Exactly, they need easements, and they've bought companies over the years. The other one is, like I said, we're working with nonprofits. It is, I think, nonprofits, and no offense to those who are good about it, not all nonprofits are good about keeping track of what's due to them, both in their own name as well as what people have left for them. So that's another big focus of our business.
Yeah, and they're probably leaving a lot of money on the table, and it's like, nonprofits, they need that. It's like, well, there's like probably acres of diamonds there for them.
Yes, so we one client of ours happened to be very good about we see most nonprofits are not as good about as they could be, and if they can be, great. We applaud that. If they need us, we're there for them.
Any chance in the future that you might write a book and share, although somewhat anonymously, some of the cool stories that you have that you've collected over the years from clientele? Well,
I'm not sure I should say this publicly, but I have been kind of harboring that the great American novel, I thought in my mind of writing a sort of a John Grisham type book, but focusing on people find the errors. I think
that would be cool.
I love to do it, and I like to think I have the talent to write something. Whether it will sell is another story. Just have to, find the time between the business. I've got 3 young kids, and
dictate it. So let somebody else, flesh it out, and then you can do rewrites.
So sometimes on long car drives, I kind of play out the story in my mind. I just have to,
That could be amazing. I could totally see this.
Yeah,
I could totally see this for you.
I'd like to do it. It's on my bucket list.
I also think, as I had mentioned earlier, this is so. This would be a great reality TV show too, because I mean, these people have got to be pretty shocked sometimes. Because when I see some of the things that you post on social media about some of the amazing people that you brought together with their assets that are, have come down to them through whatever channel, I am just floored. They are so fascinating, and I'm like, wow, this person must be so excited. And it's so interesting because it took this little following the clues to put these people together.
We like I said, we have been approached about it, and it's never been the right fit in terms of finding someone who actually. We wanted to make sure someone wasn't going to make this sensationalized, or we want to make sure that everybody is cast in not to brush things off, not necessarily to brush things under the rug, but not some reality shows like to dramatize things to create conflict just for the sake of ratings, and we did not want to get caught up in that.
And you could always do your own thing. Wow, I'm just even a podcast talking to people who are who have even anonymously you could do that.
I've thought about that. I've become a big podcast fan of
being in the car drives, long drives.
When I'm doing stuff around the house, I listen. Tim Ferriss, who has an excellent podcast for entrepreneurs, people who just want to improve their lives. There's some great podcasts out there. So when I'm just, last night I was doing dishes and making the kids lunch, and I was listening to a podcast. I was trying to, use the time more productively.
Absolutely. So if you could share real quick about the thing you're most excited about, or the biggest success in your business, just real quick. What is that in these 17 years? What are you most proud of?
First of all, I'm proud to just make it to 17 years. I know the statistics, and it hasn't. There's a little cartoon I've seen on LinkedIn that shows the people think that success is like this, when really it's like that, and it's all knotted up. And that we were able to kind of overcome. It can be a very unpredictable business. We've gotten much better, which I like to. My partner and I pat ourselves in the back that we've gotten much better about running a business and forecasting. So we I have a new weekly exercise where I'll sit down and make sure that, we look at our receivables to make sure we're good for the next few months. Just proud of how we've come along and gotten to where we are.
Outstanding. And
Yes.
my very last question
Yes.
to you, what's your advice to entrepreneurs?
Know your numbers, know your audience. Think outside the box, but also have some reality to things, so you know what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My
What a
pleasure.
great time to spend with you again this
My
morning.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on 17 years
Thank
and
you.
hopefully many more ahead. I know there will be. Thank you so much,
My
Michael
pleasure.
Zwick,
Thank you.
President, Assets International. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.